I'm the best. I'm the worst. Why does everything bad happen to me? How closely do you pay attention to your inner dialogue? It sets the tone for every thought and action. It permeates our interactions too. You may be listening closely to another person, but you're processing the entire time. This section concentrates on deep listening, which is paramount in all of our relations, whether they are personal or work-related or just day-to-day interactions. If we don't stop and listen, we'll never learn anything new. Welcome back, players. John Felito here, your 90-day game facilitator player and coach, and welcome to part 4 of this 90-day game. Now, back in part 3, you had your first shot at developing your first meaningful intention statement. Now remember, we don't want it to be perfect. We want it to reflect your growth, your development as you're creating in this 90-day game. So keep it dynamic. There are a lot of things that can capture our attention, and we want to be in command of our attention, don't we? As we direct attention on our meaningful intentions, quite naturally we begin to notice heightened emotion and inner dialogue. You and your soul are in communication. Now, we've been told to steer away from negative emotions and negative thoughts and drive towards positive ones, right? Sounds quite rational, doesn't it? And we've all been taught that quite successfully. So let's take a closer look. Emotions and thoughts are subtle. So let's consider the physical reality, shall we? Let's take pain. Is pain a good thing or a bad thing? How about when you touch a hot stove? When you have a persistent pain in your body? What would happen if you didn't have that pain? Your hand would be damaged or even lost. And if that pain in your body is ignored for too long, you may suffer the consequences of a grave illness. The pain can be seen, in this case, as a good thing, right? What pain actually is a call for attention. Let's consider emotional and psychological pain. We're conditioned to fight or run away from those demons, gremlins, or inner brats of negative emotions and negative self-talk. The shelves are loaded with books carrying this message. Do we want to do that? We either distract ourselves from them or ruminate, going down the slippery slope of our imagination, forecasting gloom and doom. We run mental movies of what we don't want, convincing ourselves that we can't have what we truly want. In the game, we encourage you to strip the labels of good and bad from everything and see it as a divine call for attention. Each holds valuable guidance information. Now, isn't it useful to know what your real needs are? Isn't it useful to know what you value and care about most? Well, emotional pain is a call for attention. And when you embrace this, you discover needs and values, needs that are not being met and values that are being dishonored. And that's the first step to getting those needs met. Isn't it useful to be aware of our beliefs, the beliefs we're invested in? Do you want to go to war with yourself over your beliefs? Honor your self-talk. Self-talk is informing you of what you are believing at any given moment. And your beliefs are either aligned with your intention or not aligned with your intention. Listen to your soul. Reject nothing. Embrace everything. Every emotion, every thought, every event holds valuable information. You are having these feelings and thoughts for a reason. They are not a design flaw by God or Mother Nature. Rather, like physical pain, they are calls for attention. As I mentioned in the very first video, we are going to develop an art. An art when tension, anxiety, and other so-called emotions come up. That art will be fully developed in parts 6 and 7, and we are taking incremental steps to make that art very accessible for you. In this part, part 4, we want to take another step toward building this foundation. We want to become alert witnesses, far more aware of our feelings and thoughts. We want to capture these. They are calls for attention. Let's capture them in the captain's logs. You'll find them on page 92 and 93 of the game book. There'll be one log for emotions and the other for self-talk. Now I want you to read your intention statement And then check in with how you're feeling. You're feeling engaged, enthusiastic, satisfied, or whatever comes to mind, jot it down. And other times you might feel anxious, tired, frustrated, something like that, and you'll jot that down as well. And then I want to ask, what needs are being met or not being met? What values are being honored or dishonored? Because that's what your emotions are always telling you. They're always telling you about needs and values. In a similar way, we have the captain's log for the self-talk. Again, you've just read your intention statement. I want you to check in with what you're saying in your inner dialogue. Things like, I'm making great strides. I can see these plans coming together. I'm living my dream. If that's the case, jot that down. And of course, there may be times where you're saying to yourself, I can't do this. My plans will never work out. Why bother? You'll also make that entry, whatever's true for you. And when it comes to self-talk, you're always being informed about your beliefs. So ask yourself, what beliefs do I need to affirm, strengthen, and fortify to continue along my great adventure? Okay, now there's one more thing I want to highlight for you. In the second week of this part on the power of directed attention, you'll be invited to play with your imagination. I want you to be a big kid, because kids play with their imaginations and most adults don't. Why? Well, I have a personal story for you. When I was a kid in first grade, I drew a beautiful picture of a snowman in a winter scene. And I loved how the black outline around the snowman made that snowman pop right out off the paper. And so my teacher came along looking at what I was doing, and she said, you know, John, in the real world, snowmen don't have black lines around them. And I felt a little disappointed. But she was an authority figure that I respected, so I thought I had to be real. We've all heard these messages. Get your head out of the clouds, stop daydreaming. There's no room for that in the real world. We've heard these messages, all of us. So we stop using our imagination. We think it's childish, immature, foolish child's play. And I believe all adults would use their imagination throughout their life if they weren't told not to. Was it immature when Einstein imagined himself riding in a beam of light? By doing so, he transformed our understanding of the universe. Was Michelangelo being childish when he first imagined David within the stone, before he freed it from the stone, that magnificent work of art? Was Carl Jung a fool when he said, the debt we owe to the play of fantasy is incalculable? But as adults, our imaginations are actually quite active. We allow ourselves to be used by our imagination. We run mental movies of what we don't want all the time. It's called worrying. In this part 4, you'll make strategic use of the imagination. We players use our imagination in our favor. We intentionally run mental movies of what we do want. In this part 4, you are invited to play with 3 new mind games. You will learn how to mentally rehearse events and steps along your great adventure. Like Michelangelo, you'll envision your desirable outcomes in all of their exquisite detail. You will learn the power of metaphor and how it bypasses the limitations of the rational mind, speaking directly to your soul. You'll imagine a beautiful garden of your very own design and will plant your metaphoric seed of intention there. There are many benefits of playing mind games, emotional, psychological, and physiological, and you'll read all about that. You will learn how to stimulate your intuition, becoming increasingly receptive to fresh, creative, innovative ideas. They will come to you. You'll experience what Carl Jung called synchronicity and meaningful coincidences as you align your outer reality with your inner reality. In part 5, you'll begin navigating. You'll learn how to navigate with a cool head and a warm heart. You'll be inspired by the poet Rumi. In Rumi's guest house, all of your feelings are welcomed. The so-called good ones and the so-called bad ones. You'll see them all as valuable guidance information. You'll accompany Carl as he brings his challenging feelings into Rumi's guest house. You'll learn the OR model, a simple yet powerful model that you'll use throughout the balance of this game, and I'd like to think for the rest of your life. You'll also meet your crew. You actually do have one. And you'll also be introduced to the mood elevators. No, it's not pharmaceuticals. It's a useful awareness tool, just another tool for your tool bag. So that's it now. I want you to go ahead and play part 4. Remember to play with the captain's logs and use your imagination. And I'll see you back here in a couple of weeks.